And so in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you, my experience, living in Canada for the past 7 years. And I've seen a lot of things, I've seen a lot of things. That is, I've experienced a lot of struggles myself, a lot of ups and downs that, popularly a lot of immigrants face. And, there are a lot of things people don't tell you, right? You may see somebody snapping pictures on social media with their fine house or their fine cars. You may not know all of the struggles and all of the experiences that person has been through before they finally get to the position they are at a particular point in time. So I will share my own experience. I also share experience of what I've had, or what I've seen, happening to other people. So it's going to be a pretty long video. So if you are in a hurry, yeah, I guess you can find, another video to watch. But if you are not in a hurry and you really, really want to learn about life in Canada from a first-hand perspective, I would say grab a cup of coffee, and then, then get some notes and then go on this journey with me as I share, my 7 years experience living in Canada. Now, it all started with, having that intention that, I want to migrate, right? I, finished my undergrad and then, I was trying to get some job, back then in Nigeria, tried a couple of times, but, it wasn't forthcoming. And I know that, yeah, I actually had a very good grade. Why don't I try, apply for some kind of scholarships abroad? Because then, there was really no way to pay the tuition. So out of pocket, right, per se. So I started looking at the original to supervisors until I finally got one. We got talking, and I finally got that admission. And, it was probably like, so I'm saying a whole year or a year and a half of trying to get a supervisor, and all of the response I was getting was no, 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 and no. At that point, there was every tendency for me to get discouraged in the whole process. So that's going to be the first thing I want to tell. If you're really interested in this Canada journey, you may have gotten refused at first time, second time, third time. If you're really, really interested, and it's something you really want to do, no matter the disappointment, just pick up yourself and try again and try again. It was for me in the midst of trying again and again and again and again and again that I finally got that supervisor. So you just have to keep trying. And then, everything so happened all so quickly, right? I got my supervisor in March, applied for admission, got admission 18th of March. I was initially supposed to start in September, but my supervisor was able to talk with the department, and then I I got an admission for May. And look at me in April, right? I reached out to everybody, and everybody said, you know what? Like, oh, how admission for early April, and my school is resuming in May. What should I do? A lot of people said, it's not going to be possible. But I spoke to my supervisor. She gave me a letter. I was about to apply for the visa, and I got my approval in like 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks. That was a record time. And then I moved to Canada in May. So this is me, early March. I had no idea. There was no hope. But in the next 2-3 months, I was already in Canada. So you just have to keep trying. Just that one more apply to that admission, that one more try to applying for the visa may just get you that particular thing that you need. Now, the first thing that you will experience when you come to Canada is that excitement, right? You will feel like, oh, now I'm in Canada, abroad. The first time I came, I was like, I just went out, just, walked around and I'm now actually in Canada, right? And the excitement was all in the air, right? For a couple of days. But after that excitement comes that reality phase, right? And then a lot of things will now begin to change, right? And then you now begin to learn a few things. Now, I started having to discuss with my supervisor. Back in Nigeria, sometimes if you are having a conversation with an elderly person and you are looking eyeball to their face, it will look as if you are a bit disrespectful, right? But yeah, I discovered that, wow, when you're speaking to somebody, you have to look at them, right? You have to make that facial contact, make that facial, I don't know if I how you call it facial recognition or not, but it's important to look at their face. It's a way to build that communication. And then I started learning a lot of things. Oh, people can just smile with you. That doesn't necessarily mean that they like you, right? It's just a normal courtesy, right? So as a guy, if you see a lady smiling for you or just waving at you, don't mistake that for, oh, this person like me, right? Let me go, talk to the person more, right? So please avoid that as much as possible. And then came another shock of my life, right? Which is going to be for the weather. Yeah, it's something I expected. So, because I already done some research and then I bought some good clothing to make sure that I don't, get too cold. And then if you're able to, it depends on the season where you're coming to Canada, right? So you should know, check the temperature whenever you're going to land to make sure that you are properly heated. You don't want to, the last thing that will happen is to buy something that I did. I bought something very light and I thought that's going to be my winter jacket. And then when I got to Canada, that thing I bought, I thought it was my winter jacket, became my inner wear. So I have to wear that before wearing the winter jacket. And then, I remember the first time it snowed, I was just in, there was like a snowstorm and then I was just in the snow, just enjoying myself. And when it's snowing, it's not that cold that particular point in time, but after some time, it really gets cold. And then another reality dawns again, which is going to be academic challenges. Now, Canada is renowned for excellence and rigor in terms of education, and you must be top of your game. Okay, you may have left school 5 years ago, 10 years ago, but you are here. You must put in your very best because you're going to may have assignment and test all the time. Group conversation, group discussion. So you that maybe you're not really used to engaging in class, but here you may engage in group projects. You have to present. So at that particular point in time, you have to put in your very best to ensure that you participate, because those things are also part of maybe some points in your exams and all of those things that contribute to the overall score. And then as you're going through all of those, the education system may be very different from what you already know. For me, it was very different, right? It took a couple of weeks for me to really, really adapt. So when you come and you're experiencing those initial push, those initial challenges and those initial, doing assignment here and there, just know that it is very temporal. It's going to be for a moment and it's going to pass. At the end of the day, it's going to, you may even end up finishing at top of your class, even though the first few weeks you are really comfortable. And then you're going to see people in your class, maybe that did some previous degree in Canada and they are your classmates. And it looks as if they are very intelligent, right? And they are just answering questions. And you'll be like, am I the wrong class? Like, especially for those that you were this high class student back in your home country, right? But it's going to be over time. They already used to the system now because there may be, lecture materials even before the class. They can go through, learn a few things and, study prior to the classes. So you will get to these things over time. And then another problem or another challenge later on becomes finances. You feel like, because maybe the money you came with is now getting exhausted. Now you have to start looking for a part-time job, right? And let's say in your home country, you're already a manager, supervisor, but if you're here, you probably wouldn't get a manager part-time. You probably wouldn't get a supervisor position part-time, right? So most of the positions you get probably going to be, let's call it survivor jobs, customer service, home care, sales associate and some warehouse, and all of skin the dishes, Uber, delivery, and some other things like that. And you have to do so. Don't think about your status in your home country and then start to talk down yourself like, oh, this is me that used to have an official car. Now I'm doing a customer service job. It's just for the moment, okay? It's not going to last forever. So think about it as a phase. When you pass through that phase, it's going to, you're going to pass through that particular phase. And because obviously you need to pay rent, and then you need to have money for phone bills, and then groceries, the internet, depending on the kind of place that you see, and then you continue like that. Obviously, by now, you should have sorted out your accommodation. And usually, accommodation, people can, if you're able to get accommodation before you come, maybe an actual accommodation where you're going to stay long term, good. Most time, people just get like an Airbnb, stay for a couple of days. And then, while they're in that Airbnb, they are not looking for actual accommodation. So, that is really the best thing that a lot of people do. Some other persons might also stay on, let's say, campus residence, and then over time they can transition to other kind of apartments, and then try to that balancing of work and school. At some point, it feels like you don't have time because either you have classes or you've gone for work. Try to raise money to pay your next, accommodation, because here, once it's month ending, it's an automatic deduction from your bank statement, from your bank account, okay? Then this is the point where you have to learn to prioritize. At that point, a lot of emotional challenges can start to come in, and then you'll be like, why am I here? But it's just a phase, okay? The next thing is going to be now, kind of settling down. Now it's not going to be actual life in Canada, living in Canada. Now, living in Canada could be an adventure, right? And at the end of the day, it requires some kind of adjustment, right? And if you're in a place where living expenses is higher, like places like Ontario, British Columbia, you're going to be spending a little bit more, right? Compared to people, those that are in, some other provinces where the cost of living is not high. Like in, Newfoundland, especially the Atlantic provinces, Montreal, they do have, relatively good cost of living, right? And then you have to think about public transportation. You have to get a bus pass. And then, you just have to understand this a little bit. Sometimes, Google Map is the best way to kind of learn about this. And then for a start, you can ask questions, right? That's another thing. If you don't know anything, ask questions. For someone like me, all the time I entered the bus and I didn't know I have to press stop. And then the bus passed where I was supposed to highlight. And then, until I went to meet the driver, and they actually said, oh, you have to press this. I didn't know. So if you don't know something, try to ask questions, okay? Another thing that is also very challenging, now you have to think about your tuition, right? When you apply for study permit, you will be required to show minimum of 1 year tuition. If your program is 2 years and you have already started, you should have the funds, of course, to cover your first year, because that is what IRCC recommends. And you should have what to cover you for at least the first year for cost of living, right? For an individual, you should have at least 20,635 Canadian dollar equivalent for the first year cost of living. So if I'm talking about, paying for tuition or living expenses, it's not going to be for the second year. So now you have to start saving for the second year. This is where it becomes very difficult, because sometimes you can get very, very busy in school because you don't also want to fail, right? You can get busy in school and you don't really have a lot of time to work, right? And at the end of the day, your bills are piling up. So at some point, maybe when you're on holidays, this is a time where you can work, a little bit more hours and like get more shifts, if possible, but don't work more than the recommended hours per week, so you don't run into trouble. No matter how much money you are looking for, just make sure you stay within that boundary, okay? It becomes a bit difficult, and then you're going to be having shows, raising money for the second year. So this is where the second part comes in, where you start to, it looks as if you're feeling the heat. And then you start to compare with your friends. Now, there are some people that are studying with you. their parents, maybe they want to sponsor them, and their parents have all of the money, right? They have all the money to use to sponsor them, to take care of their living experience, and know that they may not even have to work. So don't compare yourself with those kind of people. They may have cars and you don't have, take your public transport as being good, right? Don't compare yourself with somebody else because you don't know exactly where or the lifestyle of that person, where they are getting funds, their family background, and all of those things. And then another thing becomes that lack of patience, right? People just want to get this done. You just want to work and work and work. You don't even want to rest, I remember I was in a province, in Newfoundland. I was having a conversation with a group of persons. One of the guy, he finished one work at like 11 p.m. and then resumed it. You have to, wake up around 4, 5 a.m., to start the next job. And then when I asked the guy, how are you doing all this? He said, man, he didn't come to Canada to sleep, right? So I was like, okay, but take care of yourself so you don't break down one day. And then because there's going to be a lot of emotional, challenges. You have your siblings back at home that you're missing. And at some point, you may even want to support them in one way or the other, right? Now that you are a student, don't put pressure on yourself. Never do that. If you don't have the funds to send to your parents or to your relative back at home, please don't overstress yourself. Don't say, oh, my friend is sending $100 Canadian to their parents every month or to their siblings. I'm going to do the same. You don't know how long they've been in Canada for. You don't even know the kind of jobs that they have, right? So people may have some kind of business, and with that business, they're able to make one or two more funds. So you don't compare yourself with those kinds of people. If not, they're going to fall into big trouble, right? And then after that comes the whole post-graduation issue, right? You now discover that getting a job is not really easy. It is extremely difficult. Especially these days, the job market is saturated. So you may apply for 5 jobs, 10 jobs, 20, 50, 100, 200 jobs and not get a skilled job. So in that case, you have to ask yourself, what am I doing wrong? You have to work on your CV, your cover letter, watch a lot of YouTube videos on, applying for jobs in Canada, attend some career fairs and, events just to kind of interact with people and then also talk with people that, oh, hey, I'm looking for a job in case you find something, let me know. So don't pressure yourself. At that point, it might become difficult. And the other part now becomes if you came to Canada and the plan is to, maybe as a graduate, get a work permit and stay, maybe get a permanent residency, yeah. But for those that want to go and study and then leave, this next advice is not going to be for you. The issue of permanent residency, right? It can be a thorn in the flesh. And sometimes the lack of patience, the timeline that you have can make it things very disturbing for you, right? If you have 3 years of post-graduation work permit after the first year, after 6 months of working in Canada, and they have not gotten your PR, right? Don't over stress about it. You just have to be patient, provided you know there's a pathway that you qualify for, that you're going to apply for, and maybe, if you're going to do it the express entry and all that, you just have to be patient and plan strategically, right? I came to Canada in 2017. It was only in 2024 that I became a permanent resident of Canada after about close to 7 years. I mean, my case was a little bit different because I came for master's, spent about 2.5 years, and then started my PhD immediately, probably it was done, right, in the 4th year of my PhD that, I was able to get the permanent residency. At that particular point in time, I didn't really worry myself because I know even though I've been here for a long time, if I didn't get it, while in school, if I graduate and I get my post-graduation work permit, I work, 1 or 2 years, still apply for the payroll, right? So at some point in time, you have to be patient, right? And then I know sometimes the post-graduation work permit is not forever, it's going to expire. This is where you have to strategically plan. Even choosing the course, choosing the province before coming to Canada, these are the things you should put into consideration. What are the PRO routes available in this province? What route am I going to take? If I study the course and graduate, so you should think about all of those things before choosing a course, before choosing a province. Usually, the Atlantic province are pretty good in terms of different PRO pathways. So you should do your research properly and plan strategically so you don't run into that situation of your post-graduation work permit expiring. Getting PRO, if you are coming for a 8 months program to 1 year program, is pretty tough. So you have to be very, very strategic about it. You don't want to fall into a situation whereby you finish, you get a 1 year work permit, and then it's almost expiring and nothing to show for it. You have to plan. Sometimes people may have to do a separate 1 year program just to have a 2 years program and to be eligible for a 3 years post-graduation work permit. That way, you'll have more time to kind of plan things around. Okay, final note. Despite the fact that Canada is very challenging, I always tell people, think about Canada as a marathon. It's not a sprint. It's not a 100-meter race. It is a marathon. So if you are in school, don't expect everything to be that rosy. I did a lot of part-time jobs. I've done night job. I've done care job. I've done the warehouse jobs, right? I don't do all of those things any longer because I've passed that stage, right? So if that is a phase where you are, embrace it. Do it with all your utmost ability. Just know that it is going to be a phase, okay? When you graduate, you get your permanent residency, and then you could become a citizen after 3 years. And then, the case may be, you get your house, you get your big car, you get a job, you have kids. You'll be living life, it's going to be a bit steady. So it takes a lot of time. I would say for students, it takes probably close to 4-5 years before you can start saying, oh, I've really settled down. I'm okay. I don't owe any debt. I have a car, I have my own house. I'm now on my route to becoming a citizen. That is the phase. But in the student phase, it's pretty tough. And then embrace it, okay? Network as much as possible. Join different groups, right? And organizations. If you're a faith-based person, I would say make sure you find, if you're a Christian, find a, Bible-believing church to attend, relate with those people so you can grow your faith. For me, my faith is the most important part of my whole journey, so I don't take it slightly. So I put in my very best effort in maintaining or ensuring that my faith is intact. And at the end of the day, I stay intact and I try to be positive, right? Adjusting to a new country takes time, so you have to celebrate your progress at every step of time. Embrace and enjoy the journey because it's a phase and it's going to come to pass. And then at the end of the day, you're going to come back and say, yes, I think I said it. Okay, that's going to be it for this video. If you are still in the phase of doing your study permit, admission, and other things, and you need somebody to talk to one-on-one, I offer a special one-on-one mentorship program. There's going to be a link in the description. Check it out. Reach out to me. I'll be glad to help you. And then let me know in the comment section, what are the most, let me know what are the culture shock that they've received, for those that are already in Canada. What is all the things that they expected that were not, really what you found? And then vice versa. If you are not in Canada, you just let me know which part of the story, which part of this really resonates with you. Which part of what I've said have you been talking about? Where are you watching from? Just make sure you like this video and don't leave this video without either liking, in fact, both. Like the comment, like the video, leave a comment, anything. If you want to say thank you, if you enjoyed the video, also put it in the comment section and I'll be glad to read your comment and to provide answers to any question that you have. Once again, thank you so much for watching this video. I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.